everyone, and welcome back to TTM Talks, the podcast brought to you by Top Tier Motorsport. This week we are talking about Season 2 of Top Tier Motorsport, but I'm not just waffling by myself. I have the pole champion, the podium champion of Tier 1, Season 1, Mr. Brenda.
Hello.
And we have the strategic, brilliant engineering mind that's helped us won many an esports event, and the winner of the infamous esports practice Belgium race, Mr. Billy.
Hi there.
And yeah, this week we're talking about Season 2. Lots of stuff is changing, lots of stuff to be excited about. And yeah, we're going to get into that in a bit. But first, as always, we have some news. Last podcast we were talking about the coming season, real life F1 season, and we even did a live McLaren livery reaction. But since then, we've had the AlphaTauri launch, the Alfa Romeo launch, and the Red Bull launch. So let's start off with the AlphaTauri. What do we think of the new livery for them? Because we've got them and Alfa Romeo doing sort of like a Uno reverse with their colour schemes.
Yeah, I really liked the Alpha when it was first revealed. I just thought it was something a little bit different, and then the more I've looked at it, the more I've sort of gone back to preferring the old one.
When you say Alpha, do you mean AlphaTauri or Alfa Romeo?
Yeah, AlphaTauri. Sorry, yeah, AlphaTauri. I really liked last year's, and then when it first got revealed, I did initially really like the their new one for this year. But then as I sort of looked at them side by side, I do think that the old one does just take it. But it's still an amazing looking livery, but just not quite as amazing as last, I don't think.
Yeah, the AlphaTauri. I don't dislike it, but I don't really sort of like it either. I kind of prefer the old livery, last year's livery. I think once you get used to a livery and you see it for a whole season, you kind of start to like it more and more, and then it gets scrapped, and then they make sort of a new one. And I don't know. It's a nice way of of them doing it. So they're kind of just doing a flip of the colors, which is kind of nice. And like with the front, I've noticed that they've tried to make it more of a darker color. They're more blue sort of color, so that it stands out a little bit from the Williams, because I think that's something that they might wanted to get away from. So I think it's good that they've gone for something different, and sort of just inverted it and made it look the same but different. But yeah, I'm not a huge fan of it, to be honest.
Yeah, from the side I think it looks good, but then front on, I don't know whether it's just the studio pictures, but I wasn't a big fan. But I think when it's out on track, it's going to look better. Do I touch on this now? Yeah, we'll touch on it now. So obviously there's restrictions on development, and a lot of teams are being quite sneaky this year, I've noticed. So I don't know if any of you have seen, but with the McLaren launch, they launched it with, I think, last year's like barge boards and front wing, and the rear photo of it, the diffuser was actually wasn't there. It was blacked out. And then all the photos that they released of their 2021 car from their shakedown days, the barge boards were all blacked out. And then with AlphaTauri, they said they spent tokens into their nose design, and from the studio photos there wasn't really any difference. And then when they went testing at Imola, they had this different nose design, sort of not quite a Mercedes nose, but definitely thinner as it went down. I do find it interesting that a lot of these car launches aren't as they seem, and we haven't actually seen the proper car yet. And that's something we'll talk about when we get onto Red Bull as well with their launch.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with what you've said there. I think the only thing McLaren has revealed that is different on their car properly this year is they've gone for that more Mercedes style nose on the front, or I think Mercedes 2019 style, sort of the rounded nose that
Yeah,
they have, slightly thicker than last year, less sort of thin. But yeah, I agree with everything else you said. But there is a lot of teams doing that, I think, just so that when it turns up, they turn up to testing, everything sort of in the dark with the other teams. There's going to be no edge given away before everyone turns up. So
yeah. I wonder if for next year with the new rule changes, they'll all just put their livery on this year's car, be like, "This is our car for 2022," before they rock up with their brand new car. Moving on to the Alfa Romeo. Now this livery I think bangs. It's so good. Personally, I think, and they've obviously gone for the different nose as well. What do you guys think of the livery? And obviously with the nose sort of being developed, uh, Ferrari engine in the back. Apparently, Ferrari have managed to regain most of their straight line speed. Do you think Alfa Romeo can be a midfield challenger?
I hope so. I have always quite liked Alfa Romeo ever since I came into watching sort of F1 because I quite like their road cars. So that's sort of when I sort of looked at them. They're my favourite Ferrari powered unit car, even over like the works Ferrari. I've never been sort of a Ferrari fanboy.
I can't
So
believe what you just said.
yeah, well, believe it.
Dagger to my
So
heart.
yeah, based on that, I believe that Alfa Romeo will actually beat Ferrari this year in the constructors. No, I don't think that will happen. I can hope, but I don't think it will. But yeah, I really like the livery, and it's sort of again with what Alpha Tauri did was just the sort of flip in the colours, so it's just sort of mirrored what they've done last year, which I quite like based on the fact a lot of teams are sort of calling their cars this year like the I think McLaren's this year is the it's just got like the M on the end for Mercedes power unit this year, and a lot of them are calling them the B at the end of like last year's code. So it's very much it's it is the same car, just with a new like sort of flipped livery, hence it being like a B. So yeah, I
Y-
quite like the fact they've kept it similar.
Yeah, I really like the new livery, to be honest. I think it's a really sort of fresh look. It's really, I don't know, it again with like what I said about the Avatari, it's the same but different. But I don't know, with the Alfa Romeo, they've just managed to get it absolutely perfect. It flows with the car completely. The colors are really nice and they work well with each other. And it's just a really nice livery. The other thing I noticed with um, the actual front wing of the car. So they've gone for more of a Ferrari sort of style front wing, like with the I can't remember what they're called, like the little flaps
Like
just
the
above.
five elements.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they're very much higher, like they've been raised at the top, and then they sort of come down to the end plate, and that's just something I noted. Like you can see it on the front end, like from the front end shots, you can see that the front wing is actually different, and they've gone for that sort of Ferrari um, interpretation. Um, and you were saying about names. There, I believe their car is called the C41,
yeah, there is. Yeah,
um, because
They've gone for C, have they?
it was
I thought.
yeah, it was the C41, and their 2020 car was the C39. But they had to name it the C41 because their original 2021 Challenger, which was supposed to be like the new regulations, was going to be called the C40. But obviously that got scrapped quite early on, so they had to make the new car with the C41 name instead of the C40. Just a bit of knowledge. I can't remember where I got that from. I'm pretty
Okay.
sure someone told me, but yeah, you were saying about names, and it seems kind of weird that they jumped to 41 instead of 40. But yeah, that's a bit of trivia
yeah.
that I
Jumping
found
back
out.
to the elements as well on the front wing, it is interesting that they've made that switch because I know when we had we begun having these simplified front wings, there were sort of like two concepts: that sort of Ferrari style, very high in the inboard section, and then it swoops down and out towards the end plates, or more of a sort of Mercedes style, even across the board. But then Alfa Romeo had that. They had that weird design where it was like a Ferrari one, but then two of the elements sort of joined into one. So I think I'm hopeful of Alfa Romeo this year. I think they'll probably be a bit like AlphaTauri. They'll be maybe not there every weekend, but they'll be like have peaky performances and do really well. And I just pray that Ferrari engine is good. And then finally, we've said before, with the past two car launches, same but different. Red Bull, same and same, really. Nothing really changed on the livery. They're being very, very protective of their car. I think we've only had two studio photos of it, which you could probably argue was just the 2020 car with the 2021 floor. And then they had that, what was it, 2 or 3 days testing around Silverstone to get Perez used to the car. And I know he jumped in the 2019 Red Bull. I think him and Max both did. But I saw an interesting thing, and it was like, I can't remember how many photos they released, but I want to say it's 96, but I don't think that's way too much. But they released so many photos from those 3 days, and 0 of them were of the new car.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Sort of like the new car's been really sort of hidden, to the point I'm not 100% sure with how secretive they're being. If they're going to show all their cars at pre-season testing, I reckon they'll turn up with the car in a very sort of base spec, and then sort of try and do 1 or 2 runs with some of it snuck on, just so that no one really knows their true pace. Obviously, Mercedes will do what Mercedes always does for it all, and it's just Mercedes now. We're so used to that. But I reckon Red Bull this year are going to really try and hide what they've got until they have to show their hand.
Yeah, you say that. I think last year they might have done it as well. I'm pretty sure I've read somewhere or watched it somewhere that last year in testing they did pretty much all of it with sort of like a basic car, and then chucked a load of complicated bits on it for like the last day. So it'll be interesting to see what their car actually looks like. Obviously, it won't be massively different to last year's car, but I think with the amount that they're hiding, they've probably maybe either done something radical or found, I don't want to say a loophole, but found some area of the car to exploit that they don't want Mercedes to exploit. And adding to that, there's also been a lot of talk about Honda. They've bought their original 2022 spec engine forward a year, and they're, even though it's their last year, they are literally throwing everything at this engine to try and get it to where Mercedes is. Do you think it'll be enough for Red Bull to overhaul Mercedes?
I hope so. It'd be nice to see a change of pace at the front, but you never know, really. I hadn't honestly, myself, I hadn't really noticed the secrecy with Red Bull. I guess I didn't really pay that much attention with it, to be honest. But I hope that it's a good thing and that they're doing it for a reason, and that they do have something there which they have been able to, like you say, exploit and change, to give them an advantage and close that gap to the Mercs, because I'm not sure what's happening with the full power, like the quali modes that they had last season. I know that was banned just before Italy, I think it was, or Monza, should I say? I think it was Monza. I'm not entirely sure, but I'm not sure what's happening with those. Whether that's been changed back so that they can go maximum power, or I don't know. But before that they were about a second ahead of the rest of the field. in qualifying at least. And then with their quali mode dialed down, it was still like half a second. So I'm hoping that Red Bull can close up that gap, and they are hiding it because they found a part of the car where they can make that half a second up.
Yeah, I think there wasn't a lot of, or there was hardly any photos taken or videos taken from their actual test of the RB16B. But I think I don't know whether it was from the studio photos, but one person noticed that they had sort of copied Mercedes on their rear end suspension, which I know was one of the strong bits of the Mercedes last year. Was that they did something radical with their rear suspension, which helped them a load. So obviously taking some cues from Mercedes there, but hopefully, yeah, there's something in that barge board area that they found that they can really like exploit and make up that pace. I feel like this is their best year to try and get something from it. Obviously, we haven't seen the Mercedes yet, so it'd be very interesting to see if they're sort of that same sort of shyness, not really showing off anything. But we get Mercedes tomorrow and Alpine tomorrow, and then I think Aston Martin on Wednesday, and then the Haas livery. I don't know if it's the actual Haas car, but I think it's the Haas livery later on in the week. I think the 5th or the 6th. And then
I think Haas is on Friday.
yeah,
I think.
and then obviously Ferrari, I think the 10th. And one thing I wanna ask you guys is, I don't know if you saw, but there was some news with Aston Martin retaining their BWT sponsorship. BWT, for those of you who don't know, they were the title sponsor of Force India / Racing Point, which is why they had like the pink cars. But now obviously Aston Martin have their Cognizant as their like title sponsor. Do you think we're going to see a green and pink car, or do you think because BWT aren't the title sponsor, they don't have enough sway to be like, can you paint the car pink?
Yeah, I think there'll be a pink aspect. I reckon it'll be a mostly green, like sort of the typical Aston Martin green, with I want to say a pink stripe, not necessarily just like a pinstripe either, almost like sort of like a wave going down the side of the car.
Oh yeah, that
That's
could be
my
nice. Because a
like,
lot of
oh sorry, no, you carry on.
I
like,
hope there isn't a lot of pink on there. I think it would look. I think it would just ruin the car. To be honest, like green and pink, just two colours don't go together.
Yeah, they
even
are
even
sort
if even if it was a stripe or whatever, I think it would just completely ruin the look of the car.
yeah, maybe rather than having a sort of a stripe going down the side, maybe having the rear wing sort of like the back side of the rear wing or something like that.
Yeah, that might work on the actual back of the rear wing, so that as you're looking, like is it Sofina for Williams, and like
Yes.
how Aston Martin were on the back of the Red Bull.
yeah, I think it's
It might work.
some of the livery ideas that I've seen, I don't particularly like. It's people describe it as like a watermelon car. I did see one. I can't remember where I saw it, but it was like the green, and then I think on the side pods, you know how they have like the Aston Martin wings. It was like the wings were on the side pods, and they were pink, and that actually did look quite nice. Um, so I think if there is a way to incorporate that pink and have it look good, but there's also more ways for it to not look good. but I suppose we only have to wait 2 days to find out what that looks like. But that's pretty much all we have for F1 news. We're just going to talk briefly about Formula E, because that was back for season 7, I think, this weekend. They raced at Saudi Arabia. Now, Billy, you're more into this than I am, but it was De Vries who won
Yep.
on Saturday, and then Sam Bird who won on Sunday.
Yeah. There was a red flag which stopped the session, in which he then won because they didn't restart. So I believe they had. I'm not completely sure on the minutes. I think it was something like close to 20 minutes left of technically racing left.
Don't they have
It was either,
is it like a 45-minute race or something they have?
yeah. Rather than having a lap count for Formula E, it's done just off a timer, and so when that timer hits 0, they then do one extra lap.
Yeah, so obviously that second race only get to sort of like half distance. I know a lot. I saw a lot on social media that when De Vries won, everyone was like, "Oh no," because De Vries drives for the Mercedes Formula E team. Everyone was like, "Oh no, they're dominating another motorsport
Yeah, it's just here
category
we go.
now." But luckily, Formula E is a lot more open than F1 is. But it's interesting you mentioned the crash. If you guys haven't seen, there was quite a big crash involving Alex Lynn, although he's all right. Halo doing bits again, but I found it quite funny that from I can't remember. I think it was from someone on track who was like filming it. You saw this one crash happen ahead, and then this car just come flying upside down into the barrier. But it's also important to another important thing to note is that there was a sort of attempted attack. I don't think wasn't targeting Formula E, I don't think, but it was where Formula E were racing. And it's obviously interesting to note that F1 are supposed to be going to Saudi Arabia later on in the season. Do you think this will be cause for concern and that F1 might not go to Saudi Arabia?
Personally, I don't think the trip to Saudi Arabia when it was announced was the most popular anyway amongst fans. So I think if there's a way of having it not held in terms of one that will suit everyone, it will be cancelled, possibly, because obviously there was a lot of backlash on Formula One when they announced it was going to be racing there, and obviously it's a brand new sort of track. It's going to be a street circuit, so other than losing a race from the calendar, I can't see it being a massive loss personally if they don't go there. Obviously, we've never been there before, so it might be different to sort of like the likes of Singapore and Monaco. But I don't think it was going to have a straight sort of like Baku, where you've got that massive straight for
But
overtaking.
I think as well they're getting Herman Telk to design it, and although he did design some good tracks, his last few tracks have been questionable.
Yeah,
Like Russia,
yeah, Abu Dhabi, for
Abu
example.
Dhabi, just 90 degrees, straight 90 degrees, 90 degrees. Um, but then you never know. He has pulled out some bankers before, like Turkey, China, Bahrain. Um, but yeah, I don't know if you two were watching back in 2011, I think it was. Um, there was, I don't think it was to the same extent, but there was some protests at Bahrain, so they actually missed that season going to Bahrain. So obviously, I don't think Saudi Arabia's till like the end of the season, but I'd imagine if things don't get better, it'll probably be cancelled. But moving on to our last bit of news, it came out, I think, earlier this week that Ferrari are going to enter the World Endurance Championship with a hypercar in 2023. So again, my knowledge of world endurance isn't incredibly good, but there's normally like 4 categories, and Ferrari race in the lower categories with like sports cars. But entering, I think they've had new regulations this year, which basically makes the top category, which used to be called LMP1, is now called Hypercar, or might be called Hypercar LMP1. Basically makes those cars cheaper. So they'll be entering in 2023. And just before the podcast, I read as well that Leclerc wouldn't mind doing Le Mans. Brendan, would you want to see Leclerc do Le Mans? Would that make you watch the whole 24 hours?
Yes.
Because obviously we've seen before, Hulkenberg, Alonso, all maybe do, or all do Le Mans. Maybe he wouldn't do. Actually, that was IndyCar that Alonso missed. Maybe if Le Mans isn't on a race weekend, Leclerc can hop in a Ferrari hypercar. But yeah, I think that wraps up any news. You guys got anything else you want to add to it?
No, not from me. Obviously, we sort of covered all the Formula E stuff, which is what I was going to bring to it this week. So
No, I've got nothing else.
Brenda's too busy pining over the Leclerc photos in his new Ferrari overalls with his new helmet.
They've all been added to the shrine. Don't worry.
So anyway, on to the main topic of this week. TTM are starting season 2 this week. Obviously, we've talked about season 1, gone through some of the tiers that we had in season 1, but quite a lot is changing for season 2, especially on the I don't know, Twitch side of things. I'm going to say, I would say like the sort of show side. So if you are, cheeky plug, if you're not in TTM, not in from the Discord, listen to this, go check us out on Twitch at TT Motorsport Online. Tuesdays, Wednesdays. No, it's not Tuesdays, Wednesdays. Wednesdays, Thursdays, Fridays. I'm forgetting which days we race now. But to be fair,
Tuesdays. I know Tuesdays is tier 3, and then I don't know. I started off well and then completely lost my mind where I was going with it.
Tier 1 is Wednesday, or
Hang
top
on.
tier. Sorry, should I say top tier is Wednesday? I know that, and I think tier 2 is Thursday.
Okay.
If my
Yeah, 'cause
computer
I know
would
that
work.
tier 3 doesn't start for another week because I think they wanted to start with tier 1 sort of kicking off the season. So I have to wait another week yet for my racing, but I suppose that's my fault for being so shit and being down in tier 3.
You got to work
However,
towards tier 2.
Yeah, that's my goal. I'm just going to have to blow everyone away in tier 3 and make my way to tier 2. And then either hope that you two drop to tier 2 or make my way to tier 1 because I want to be back racing you two again is my goal.
We can drop to tier 3, can't we, Josh?
Yeah, definitely. I'm just gonna take everyone out so I get demoted. So yeah, I've got the my laptop's finally decided to work. We've got top tier Wednesday at, well, I think all the European leagues tiers even start at 7:15. So we've got top tier every Wednesday, tier 2 every Thursday, the North American tier also Thursday starting at 8:30 Eastern, Formula 2 every Monday. That's a new thing that was also coming to TTM, and then tier 3 every Tuesday. Did I say Formula 2 every Tuesday? I meant Formula 2 every Monday. Words are difficult. English is hard. But yeah, lots of changes. I've seen, some of the stuff that's going on behind the scenes with all the Twitch streams, and it's going to be mental. Like, it's going to look like F1. That's how good it is. So some of the things that are changing.
I'll be excited for Wednesday night now when you kick it all off.
Yeah, it's going to be so sick. I'll probably be too busy watching the stream to even race. But starting off with
crash out.
some of the new stuff that is changing, as we kind of alluded to before. All the tiers are being shuffled around. Now, I think this is one of the biggest changes. Obviously, it can't. Well, it is one of the biggest changes, because we saw a lot in season 1 that you'd kind of get 2 or 3 drivers sort of being on the podium week in, week out. You know, in tier 1 we had me and Brenda obviously doing well, Jerry and DC in tier 2.
I don't think anyone noticed, if I'm honest.
I think we
It
were
wasn't-
very
That it
vague.
wasn't definitely complained
it
about a
wasn't-
lot.
Oh no, it wasn't anything like sort of what people moan about with Mercedes of just going, oh, it'll be Mercedes 1-2. I wonder who'll just get that third place.
It's funny that I'm so hypocritical that I hate Mercedes and then I go and do that every week. But yeah, so the whole reason why it was done like that was tier 1 was supposed to be the cleanest drivers, and then tier 2. Well, I say tier 2 was the sort of, they were clean but weren't quite as clean as top tier tier 1. But I think as the season went on, pretty much all the tiers reached the same level of cleanliness, clean racing, good racing, however you want to say it. God, you would really think English is like my second language. But this season, it's all been changed. All the tiers are sort of pace aligned now, rather than good driving aligned, which means every tier will be super competitive, and every tier, you know, you might see one person do well one week and one person do one well week and then them fall off the next week and someone else take the win. So I think that's going to be really good for the viewers, especially to see action all up and down the field.
Yeah, definitely. With it being like that, like you say, it's going to be really competitive. You and me are going to be midfield, unfortunately, from now on.
Yeah,
But
sad times.
but
At least
I
we've got each
guess,
other.
you know, yeah, exactly. So, but yeah, I mean, it's going to make it a lot better to watch, I think, and a lot more fun for the people driving in it. If you know that, if what, like you say, one week you've got a chance at winning the race, and then next week you might not be at the same, place, in the race. So I think it'll be interesting.
And adding to that, sort of mixing up, or you know, doing well one week, doing well not so well the next week. We've also got full qualifying. What are your guys' thoughts on full qualifying? Do you like the idea? Because
Yeah,
obviously it's a bit naff if you're in Q3 getting knocked out, but theoretically it should be a different lot in Q3 every week,
yeah, full quality,
or
great
Q1
idea.
even. Getting knocked out in Q1.
Always gives that option for strategy during the race. Means you can qualify on the mediums in Q2, but still be at the front. Say for like tracks such as France, as example, where you need to be on the mediums, otherwise, you know, you're pretty much out of contention. It will really help out in that respect. But as you say, it also has the negative effects that you might get knocked out quite quickly. But you know, I think overall it is a better way of doing it.
Yeah, I mean we've trialed it in the mini series, and I think it's good. I am a bit concerned if, you know, we have the same sort of drivers getting knocked out in Q3, Q1 even, but theoretically that shouldn't happen. But it does make it a lot more tense, I've noticed. You know, trying to get that lap in. I know we had it. Where did we race last week? God, my mind is blank tonight. Italy. We had it where you, Brenda, were trying to get through on mediums, I think, and then we had that like last dash lap. Everyone in Q2 trying to make it through to get into the top 10. So I think that's going to be really, really interesting. I had quite a lot of tension and excitement, especially to qualifying, where we've qualifying is one of the highlights of the weekends in like normal F1, seeing who can make it through. So I think we're going to get that sort of level of excitement again. And sort of talking about the tiers, there is something that links all the tiers, and that is an overall constructors. So obviously for season 1 we had tier 1 in the 2020 cars, and then the other tiers were in I think the storyline, if you will, was that they were teams trying to get into F1, and they were using the custom cars that were new. I think it was second year that there'd been an F1 game, but this year top tier will use the 2021 cars or 2020 cars even. I'm thinking we're already on the next game already, and all the other tiers will use sort of I want to say off-brand constructors. I don't know if that's the right word, but they'll have constructors that will be sponsored by in-game sponsors. What do we think of this overall constructors? Do we like the idea of more like a team sport sort of?
Yeah, it definitely it should bring something extra, sort of something else to play for, and even if you're not doing that well in your constructors, in like your individual tier, you've still got something sort of bigger to be a part of. Obviously, in that 1 or 2 points can make the difference. So you might be sort of 50 points behind the car in front. So you said that you're second in your constructors, and you're going to struggle to catch up. But if you can keep pushing as long as you can, and then end up beating someone in the overall constructors by 1 or 2 points, it sort of gives another sort of a third dimension, opposed to just sort of drivers and then constructors. It gives sort of another aspect again on top of that to keep working for.
Yeah, and I think it also sort of unites all the tiers as well, because obviously in a league it's quite easy for the different tiers to be separated, and you don't really hear a lot from drivers in the other tiers. So having an overall sort of overall thing to play for will unite all the different tiers, so you can all talk to each other and share information if you, if you want to. Um, but I think it definitely does help with that and sort of keeping that community aspect in the Discord.
Yeah, and I think it's going to be good as well. Maybe if one person's struggling on a certain track, I think if you were say if you were struggling on, I don't know, Singapore, and you put in the tier 1 chat, I'm struggling on Singapore, you guys got any tips? You might not get, not saying that you'd not get help, but people might be reluctant to give help because you're their rival. Whereas now you can go to your team channel in the Discord and be like, I'm struggling on this track or whatever, and even if you're a top tier driver, the other tiers, even though you're supposed to technically be the quickest, the other drivers in the lower tiers might have a different line that they use, and you might try it and might be like, oh yeah, this works for me, this gets me through the corner quicker. So I think that's going to be really good, and it'll be interesting to see how if teams do practice together, and how they can push each other to be the best driver that they can be. But linking to this whole overall constructors, we also have the introduction of team bosses and money. Now this is a very interesting thing that you might not see from the outside, but from the inside, it's very exciting. Each team gets a certain amount of money, I'm using air quotes, but money, for the season, and then you can earn more money by qualifying in the top 10, qualifying in the top 3, top 5, getting pole, and then you get money on where you finish. But then you can also lose money, so if you DNF or if you don't turn up, you can lose money. So I think that's going to add another layer of sort of realism almost, to make things, even though we might not because none of us are team bosses, so we might not, you know, I don't know what I'm trying to say, see it as deeply, but it's still that sort of, you know, level of realism.
Yeah, definitely something I've never seen implemented into a league before. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes. Um, I think it will be good. I think it'll be a really good way of sort of making sure that drivers are a bit sort of cleaner on track. Make them want to turn up, to do well for their team. And sort of have those consequences that, if you do go for risky moves and you're a bit, stupid on track, there are consequences to that, and it doesn't just affect you; it also affects your entire team, um, which is very important and something to consider when you're out on track, um, racing sort of closely, especially at tracks like Monaco and things like that, where you are easily put at risk. Um, it will give you sort of that moment to sort of think again and think, is it really smart to do this, or should I back off and like try at a different time? Um, and yeah, I mean, it's very interesting way of doing it, and I do like that idea. I think it's very clever. It's something I've never seen before, so I'm excited to see how it goes.
Yeah, and I think it's good that, well, again, my mind is kind of blank. Um, but some of the team bosses as well. I know for Ferrari we have Riceman, who can't, or I don't know if things have changed, but he was struggling to do racing at the time that we were racing last season. So it's nice to still have people who either, something's changed and they can't turn up, but they still, want to be a part of TTM. It gives, they could have applied to be a team boss, and it gives them something to do, to sort of still feel part of TTM. So I think that's a really good thing. And like you mentioned with clean racing, uh, again, my mind is I don't know why it's so blank tonight, but I'm pretty sure penalty wise, um, like we see in real life F1, if you hit someone, spin them, as well as getting like like a time penalty or something in race, um, there's a potential that you might get fined, and then your team boss has to deal with that fine, which then might lead to things further down the line where you might he might sub you out for a race or something if you keep doing it. So I think that's something really interesting to look forward to. Um, Now let's quickly talk about the calendar, because not much is changing. We're still doing the well, all the races, I believe. Again, my mind is blank, and I don't know why. I don't like it. Um,
It's the calendar for next season is it's more of a sort of mix up calendar, so
yeah, so we're
we're
doing.
not
Oh, sorry.
it's not the general F1 calendar, so we're starting at Silverstone, I think, and we're not following the normal F1 calendar that would be Australia, Bahrain, China, etc., etc. It's a complete mix up of the the season, which in some respects is good. Obviously, like 1 week. Well, for me in particular, I'm not a huge fan of the first half of the season. I don't really like it. A lot of those tracks are not really a huge fan of mine, so I'm usually not um, not as quick as I would be as some tracks in the second half of the season, um, which can be a little bit frustrating when like if you're trying to go for a championship and like for the first half of the season you're just consistently off the pace. It can be a little bit annoying, and um, it can really sort of get on your nerves until sort of you hit that second half where you start sort of then coming back. But then is it like too late to mount any challenge? Which I think jumbling up the calendar does sort of fix that problem. It sort of evens out um, the pace, and the points given each week. However, my personal opinion, I'm not really a huge fan, to be honest. I understand like why and why people want it. I'm pretty sure it's put down to a vote, and that's why it's been done this way. Um, but I think, if we're gonna implement this sort of this money idea and things like that, make it as realistic as possible. And like you said with um the streams and stuff, um, that's gonna look like F1, like that's how it's going to be, and it's trying to be as realistic as possible. Like no disrespect to any of the admins who came up with this idea, and I think they've done a really really good job with everything um for the forthcoming season, and it is going to be really good. Um, it's just, my personal preference. I would prefer to have the normal calendar as opposed to a mixed up one. But yeah, like I say, no, I'm not. Um, I'm not saying it's bad and that I don't sort of like anything that they've done. It's just my personal preference.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I think probably the main thought behind it was we had this, COVID mixed up calendar last year where we started off in Austria, which is something F1's well, it might have done back in like the 70s or 80s, but it's not done for a long time. So I think the thought was to sort of mix it up and have it more of like a COVID calendar. Obviously, we can't go to some of the places like Mugello or wherever. Um, and I see what you mean. Especially if we're going down this realistic route, it would be nice to do um, the calendar in order. But I also see that's if you do career mode, I do find it a bit boring after a while that you're like, oh, it's the same order. Um, so yeah, a fair enough opinion. And it's important to note as well we're doing the full 22 race calendar with Bahrain short as well. What are your guys' thoughts on including Bahrain short? Obviously, it's not the outer circuit that we've seen in real life, um, but it still
Yeah,
provides
I like.
something different.
Yeah, I like it. Obviously, it's something a bit different that we didn't run last season, so it's another aspect of sort of a new track that no one really knows how quick the other drivers are. Obviously, you can see a time trial lap, but that's not necessarily representative of anything else. So it was almost like it's a complete. You're going into it completely blind on others' pace compared to last season, where you already have a rough idea going into this one based on how they did last time. Obviously, they could have had a spin or something, but most of them would have had or finished a race with sort of a competitive time for themselves. So I like the idea, and it also adds another race to the calendar. So more chance if you do mess up early to sort of claw some points back.
Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting to see. It's interesting that from what I've heard from like other leagues and stuff, Bahrain short seems to be the most popular one. Obviously, the other short tracks that we've got are Britain, Japan, and USA. And I can see why we're not doing like USA because there's not really anywhere to overtake, and Japan there's not really anywhere to overtake. But I find it a bit interesting that we're not doing Britain because I feel like I suppose there's only Stowe that you can overtake at. Never mind that thought was a wrong. Yeah, mate, I don't know what's happened to my brain tonight. It's just gone. Um, but anyway, let's go through some of the tiers. So let's start off. What tier do we want to start off with? Should we do top tier first, or do you want to do?
I would need to pull up something so I can talk about this. um, I don't know. We can talk about any of them really. I mean, I think they're all going to be as competitive as each other, to be honest.
All right, let's talk about top tier then, because I feel like this is one that's weirdly seeing the most new faces. Even though you might think it might have been one of the lower tiers, but we've got a lot of people moving up. We've got the likes of Jerry, DC, Sam, Jet Atom, Sam and Jet Atom both from Tier 3, Benji from Tier 3 as well. We got some drivers from Tier 4. I know Tier 4 was sort of like a late addition to the roster, if you like. So we got some drivers like PRT Benedict, AMS Partick, Pred, uh, KVS, all moving up to top tier. And then we've also got some new faces, some fresh faces. We got TTM Mali, TTM L7, DW, who I think might have done. I want to say he might have done tier 4. He might not have though. So some esports drivers, and then we've got some of the American drivers too. We got TTM Furby, who obviously, if you didn't see, won the North American tier last week, and TTM Danny Rick also joining. So it's going to be super competitive. Do you think there's going to be a clear sort of fastest person? Do you think these esports drivers who are coming in are going to be the quickest, or do you think the likes of me, you, Brenda, Jerry can mix it with them and give them a hard time?
I hope so. I hope we can have sort of top 10 appearances, top 5 and things like that, and sort of be able to mix it with them and make their lives a little bit difficult at the front. But you never know until we get to the first race of the season. Anything can happen. So it'll be interesting to see. But I do believe that we're going to have sort of different winners, different drivers on the podium each week, which is going to be very nice to see, I reckon.
Yeah, I think it's going to be super interesting. I think there's, looking at the grid, there's not really one driver who I'd say is quickest, and there's equally not one driver that I would say is slowest. I think it's definitely going to vary track to track. Like, if there's a pad track, pad users might be a bit higher up. If there's a wheel track, wheel user might be a bit higher up. If there's a track that one person doesn't like, but someone else does, I think it's going to be really interesting and really close.
Monaco.
Monaco. Or I should have pushed for that to be off the calendar. But yeah, I think it's going to be one thing I'm interested to see is what the qualifying spread is. Because if it's like half a second, that's going to make things so intense.
Yeah, I think that's a lot of you do like to see that in leagues and things like that. Is that the top 10 are separated something ridiculous like half a second. It also makes it so that if you improve by a fair amount, you're also going to move quite a far bit up the board. Which I would love to see. If I go 2/10 up and end up going from like 7th to 2nd, that would be an amazing sort of feeling. Instead of going up like a second and a half and only moving up like one position. So yeah, I think having that sort of that split and having that closeness is going to be really fun, particularly in qualifying, but also in the race. Obviously, we're going to find that we're going to have drivers so close together that maybe one stuck behind the other can't quite get close enough to make a move, but is just constantly there and pressuring. But yeah, I mean, we'll just have to wait and see. I think it is going to be really good though, and really good to watch and really good to drive in.
Now, this is a question for both of you. I don't know if you've both got the sort of who's driving in top tier up. If not, I can run through who's in what team. Is there a particular team that stands out. Because one thing I think is going to be crucial is consistency. Speaking from experience from a different league that I was in, I wasn't the quickest there, but because I was consistently on the podium, not really making mistakes, after like the first like 5-6 races, I was in the lead, and I could be the quickest person because they'd made mistakes, they'd got into incidences, and I think they had a race ban for one of the weeks, or they'd make a mistake and give away a win. So I think consistency is going to be key. But is there one or maybe 2 or 3 teams that stand out to you as they're looking strongest?
I think Mercedes are just going to dominate. And it's not because I'm in Mercedes or anything.
I think Ferrari. Again, not because I'm in Ferrari or anything, but I think.
Well, no, but to be fair, I think Ferrari have got an unfair advantage of having Season 1, Tier 1, runner-up and champion in the same team as teammates. I think that's
All I'm saying
perfectly
is,
quite
we've got the most championships out of anyone, and I think we should add another one to it, or add another 2 actually with drivers and constructors. Actually, add another 3 with drivers, constructors, and overall constructors. Go big or go home, I say.
Yeah.
And all I'm saying is,
I mean, I left my old team, which I won the constructors with, to come to Ferrari. So I'm expecting big things.
it's alright if anything, I don't switch to wheel, and we could have had that constructors. But yeah, I think honestly, Ferrari, we've got a good shout. Me and you, brother, are both of a similar pace and similar consistency, so I think that's going to help massively, especially if we can, double point score every week. I think that's going to be good. I think Red Bull looks strong. They've got Jerry and DW. Although I know Jerry's turned off, has turned off racing line, so maybe that might hinder him a little bit at some tracks if he can't put the practice in 1 week to totally nail it down. But obviously we know how quick Jerry is. Obviously he's Tier 2 champion, racing esports quite a bit. DW's really quick. And then I also think Renault. I don't really know a lot about Mali or L7, but I know they're very good in esports. So I would imagine they're going to be pretty quick. But again, I think anyone's got a good shout of doing well. Do you want to do predictions now, or should we leave them till the end?
I don't mind, to be honest. I think they're going to be difficult to predict, so we can leave it for now and then come back to it.
Leave it. Have some more thinking on it. So moving on to Tier 2. Again, this is some people move up, some people move down. But yeah, I mean it's pretty much the same for every tier. They're going to be really hotly contested. I'm just having a look through now. There's TTM Juice. He's new, I think. But everyone else, I think we kind of have an idea on how quick they are. Oh, Dust Duchess in the duotone Alfa Romeo is new as well, I think. Yeah, is there well, I guess we could just go straight into it. Is there a particular driver pairing that looks stronger than the rest to you guys?
I would say
personally, I'm going to go quickly because I've got someone shouting in the background, so then I can just mute again. I'd say the strongest pair of driving would be Brenda and Josh, but then in Tier 3, it'll be Tubilly and Simba.
that would be great, but we're talking about Tier 2.
I did miss that. I did have shouting, and I wasn't too sure, so I've said both. But the
You
one
said the other 2 tiers.
Right, okay. I don't know who's in Tier 2.
That's right. You go deal
Yeah,
with
that doesn't help much.
you go deal with your what's happening. Me and Brenda will fill, and we'll come back to you in a little bit. I'm just having a look through now.
I mean, to be honest, I would say Ali Star and Stena, they look very strong, to be honest. I know those two. They're both of them are quite quick. Um, so I think they might be a very strong pairing. Also, Tez and Pars in the Williams, those two could be quite good together. Um, Raleigh and Michael, I mean, they're very close together. I think there is a few that I would say that are not really stand out, but might be a bit more competitive than the rest.
You,
Um,
yeah, you've
my
literally
original
chosen the
one,
three that I was going to choose.
yeah, all of those three um, looking very good, looking very competitive.
Yeah, I think.
So
Oh, sorry.
no, sorry.
I think if I had to pick one, I think the Mercedes duo of Michael and Raleigh, or he used to be called Jagerbomb, look good. Just purely because in Tier 1 last season they were both very consistent. And I think, again, consistency is going to be crucial. I know Ali Star and Stenner were also quite consistent. Uh, Tez and Pars, I think that's my. I'll say, I don't know if underdog's the right word. I think they can be really, really good, but they just need that consistency. I know when I've talked to Tez before, that's one of the things he's talked about is that in season 1 he had a couple of races where things didn't go quite right for him. But then when he's on his game, we saw in the mini series the other week around Bahrain Short, he was ridiculously quick. He got pole in Austria last year as well, or last season. So I think if they get their act together, they not act together, but if they're consistent enough, they can do well.
Yeah,
But it's the thing, like looking through all these drivers, all of them have the potential to do well. It's
yeah,
just consistency.
yeah, yeah. I agree, definitely.
Um, I don't really know what else to add. I feel like we talk lots about top tier and then tier two.
I mean,
Um,
it's the one we know the most about.
yeah, true. I I mean it's kind of just repeating it for all of them. It's all going to be down to consistency. It's all going to be a bit of a closer grid, which should provide more racing. Yeah, let's just move onto tier 3. Um,
Hmm.
and yeah, obviously, I'm trying to look through now. A lot of there's just a lot of drivers who were in tier 3 originally. Some drivers who were in tier 2, like TTM the cat and TTM the leg, moving down into tier 3. Um, but yeah, I think tier 3 is going to be. I think it's going to be good. Obviously, when you say tier 3, it makes it sound like they're not quick. They are quick. Just the people in top tier are just like freakishly quick. And like I know we talked about it with Billy before, that him racing at the back, maybe not with anyone, probably isn't helpful. Whereas now that everyone should be of a similar pace, I think it should allow them all to improve. And I know the goal is to then move up into tier 2. Is there a
Yeah, it gives that sort of rewarding feel to it. If you are that quick enough, you move up a tier, and then you're in a whole new set of drivers to try and then prove your worth. Um, but looking at it, I think again, like I said at the start, they're all going to be really competitive. It's hard to put a prediction on one team. Um, I know, and I'm not just saying this, but I know that like Sim Racer, he can be pretty quick.
yeah
Um, if if he's on it, um, and he doesn't, and he keeps that consistent sort of pace. Um, I don't honestly I don't really know a lot of the other drivers. I know Steele, he could do quite well. I think he did okay in tier two last season, so he might be able to pull out some pace in tier three this season.
Yeah, and one of the big things with him as well was that he transitioned to wheels. So if he can get on top of that, um, and start, getting comfortable with it and getting quicker, he should do well.
Yeah, there's a few that I'm looking at now, like Chitsu as well. He could do quite well. Um, like you say, if they're able to sort of focus us on that consistency, um, we might see quite a good um, quite a good bit of racing. You've also got the leg and the cat. I know that they're pretty good, the both of them. Um, so yeah, I mean, it's hard to say one specific one. I think tier three especially is going to be um, very competitive. Looking at all the drivers now, um, but then I don't know too much about them, so I could be talking complete rubbish right now.
Yeah, quite a few of them were in tier three, so I sort of know them from commentating. Um, and yeah, like I said, with sort of tier two, with some of the tier two drivers, it's kind of like consistency. I I don't know whether I had a thought that it might have just been that. I don't even know what I was going to say. But basically, in tier three, a lot of them had quite peaky drives where one week they'd be really good, and then the next one they wouldn't be, or they wouldn't particularly turn up. I know uh, Kung Fu Powton, who I'm pretty sure is Baby Girl, um, or is known as TTM Baby Girl as well. He he was one of the people who really who I was really impressed with. Like the first couple of times I started commentating tier three, he put in some banging performances, but then kind of fell off, and then had like an incredible uh, last last two races to the season. So I think again, it's consistency. It's who can maybe not win every week, but be top three, top five every week, to pull out. Yeah, to bring the points home. Looking through, there's not, apart from, I don't even know. There's not one that stands out. I think Leg and Cat maybe might be my pick, just because they might have the consistency. Um, but I think tier three and tier two are going to see the most changes week to week. I think personally, but again,
Yeah, I mean,
we'll just have to wait and see.
I don't know. It is difficult to say. Um,
Because like as well, you can be like,
I seriously have no idea.
it's so difficult trying to not rank them, but see how they'll do. Because when, you might know the pace of, like we know the pace of M still in tier two, and some of the paces of the guys in tier three, but without having them, on the same track at the same time, it's very difficult to sort of rate them. Um, so overall, is there a particular team that looks strong, like to win that overall constructors?
Um, honestly, there is no standout team for me. Obviously, being biased, as
Big
I'm
up
sure you are
Ferrari.
as well, you want to say Ferrari. Um, but I don't think looking at each lineup, it is difficult to say. I think it's all spread out very well, um, to the point where you can't actually put a prediction on one constructor. I think it's gonna be a bit of like a different constructor's going to do well one week and then another one's going to do really well the next week. At least that's what I hope for, just to make things interesting and to sort of give that that feeling at the end, that we're going into the last race and it's like all to play for, which is it is a really exciting feeling. I think not only for the drivers but also for the commentators and anyone who's watching. Which I think the admins have done really well in making sure that that is how it's going to be for all the tiers. So I can't say one. I think that it's going to be better than the rest. I think we're just going to have to wait and see. Maybe after like round one, things like that, and see how it goes.
Yeah, I know that was a really important thing, was to not only make sure that the tiers are balanced, so that you don't have the two best drivers in the same car, but to also make sure that the overall constructors was quite balanced. I mean, looking through, again, this is, let me just see who's in Red Bull. Hayes, Duncan. He's in the Williams for tier 3. Looking through, this is going to be biased, but I think us Ferrari boys, I think we, I think in each tier we have a good lineup. I don't know if it's the best lineup. We'll just have to wait and see. But I think, even if say if like I don't know in top tier one constructor sort of not runs away with it, but is out ahead. They might not be the same in the other tier. So I think that's going to be important. But it's obviously good that it's all mixed up and we don't really know. It's going to be good to watch, but it's a bit of a pain to try and predict on. But speaking of predictions, I'll say before we go on to predictions, we've missed out North America tier. Actually, no, apologies to the North American guys. But I know you're gonna have broke Dave's heart. Again, I don't really watch North American tier because it is on, at silly o'clock in the morning over here. So I don't know if I don't think a whole lot is changing in terms of driver lineup. I know I see quite a few of the guys from there in top 10 moments, and do you watch any of the North American tiers? We can try and pick out a team that looks good. We just go with Ferrari again.
I haven't watched a lot. I'm just trying to read all the names now. Obviously the one we know the most is Dave.
Yeah, and
in the Ferrari.
He was a runner up to Furby, who's gone to top tier and is no longer in North American tier. So
yeah, I think Dave was leading the championship until the last race.
Yeah,
I think
he was.
I mean,
he only lost it by 2 points as well.
If you're listening, Dave, I apologise for bringing that up, but I do kind of feel bad for him that he did lose out in the last race. But I think he is going to bring some strong pace. He has got some strong pace throughout the races. Whenever he posted in like the media share about how his races had gone, he was constantly saying, I was in like the top 5 or on the podium or whatever. So I think he's going to have a good shot at taking that championship, bringing some good points home for Ferrari. But I honestly don't know. I can't really say too much on the other teams. I'm trying to read them now just to see if I can get any idea.
Yeah, I'm looking at the results, and Dave. Obviously, they had a shortened season. Dave won twice, but he did come second. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times, and 4 out of those 5 times Furby did win. So, I mean, I don't know how close those races were. And I think there are a few new faces there, so hopefully it won't. Well, I mean, for us, we want it to be, Dave run away with it and bring home lots of lovely points. But I'm sure there'll be plenty of drivers who will try and beat him to the championship. But let's go through our predictions. And I'll tell you what, let's start off with TRNA, seeing as they're the ones that we know least about. What who do you think is going to be champion? Just drivers champion. We'll just do drivers champion.
Like I said,
I've just got back what tiers this for, so I don't start saying the wrong names again.
We're doing predictions, and we're starting off with tier NA.
Okay, I'll let Pete go first.
Like I said, with what I thought about the tier, I think Dave's got a really good chance. Especially, was it Furby who won the championship?
Yeah.
Even with that shortened season, and I think Dave was second to Furby quite a lot, like you said. So I think with Furby gone, I think Dave's got a really good shot at taking the championship. And obviously, being at Ferrari, I would love for that to happen. But I mean, it's difficult to say when I don't really know too many of the other drivers. I know Dubsy. I think he's pretty quick as well. There's another one I saw. What was it? I think Adler maybe. I think he was pretty good. Shady as well. So yeah, I think there's a few drivers there who have got a good shot. I think it'll be an interesting season for them.
There was I'm just saying if he was included in the standings. No, he wasn't. So I know one of the guys. Where is he on this one? Yeah. So Gunnar Will. I know he. I think he was in season 1, but then I think he had to step away. But now he's back, and I think he was pretty quick as well. So obviously for Ferrari we want a Dave championship, but I think there are plenty of people to try and take the fight to him. Billy, is there? Who do you think is going to win the championship in North American tier? Obviously, if you don't really know, because we're not really clued up with all the drivers, that's fine. Or not. Seems like Billy has disappeared again.
I was on mute. I was on mute. That's what I do in the Xbox a lot. So yeah, on top of that, my Discord has crashed. So even now, I'm just looking at a black screen, even in this call, and I can't click into any of the tabs. So other than the ones you've mentioned, I can't actually see who else is in those tiers. So I'm waiting for all that to load.
That's right. You can just say Dave, and be a traitor to William,
Dave.
To Mercedes, and Ferrari's the way. Forza Ferrari. So let's do our tier 3 champion prediction then. I'll go first.
Do you want me to go first?
Have you got the thing loaded up, Billy?
No, but I know who's in tier 3 because I'm in tier 3.
All right, you can go first if you want. Who's gonna win?
Me.
Yeah, I like that.
No.
Back yourself.
Yeah, I want to back myself. Whether or not it will come true, I'm not sure. I'm hoping it will. I've been putting in a lot of practice when I can, that is, to try and sort of improve. I know a few of the drivers that I'm up against in that are very similarly paced, so I think it's purely going to be not so much a luck sort of thing. It'll be purely about who puts himself in the best positions and who can then hold on to it more than anything. I think that it's going to be a really close tier, so I don't want to actually say who will win. But I reckon that there's about at least 5 or 6 different drivers that could all be up there. But just so I don't sound sort of arrogant, because I don't think I'll win 100% anyway. I'll be happy if I get podiums, sort of thing. So I'm gonna go for Simba or Sim Racer as the winner, who will be my teammate.
Brendan, do you want to go next?
I would feel bad now for saying anyone else, but I don't know. Like we touched on in the sort of constructors, I think the leg or maybe the cat, they've got a good chance. Um, but it's going to be so close. I think the two Merc boys do have a good chance. Um, like I said, with Sim Racing, on a good day, he can be quick when he's like not wiping off his front wing. Um, so I don't know. Um, hmm, I don't know. I know Chitsu's pretty good as well. Um, so I honestly don't know. I can't say. Um, I'm gonna go with. I'll go with TTM the leg. Why not?
All right. I think you know.
I now know who I'm voting for
Uh,
when it
um,
gets to tier one.
I'm backing the boys. Billy's gonna bring it home.
Yeah,
Um, but there are lots of drivers who could be fighting for that championship, and I think it's just going to be a matter of consistency. Um, moving on to tier two. This one, we don't have any biases in.
No.
Who's going to come out on top in tier two? Do you reckon?
um, I think Ali Star, to be honest.
yeah. I'd back that. Obviously, he came in late to season one, and then I don't want to say he dominated, because he didn't necessarily dominate, but didn't he win? He won 2 races out of his first 3 that he entered, didn't he? When
Yeah,
you two both had sort of an off race or something happened.
yeah, he won 2 races off the bat. So
Yeah,
Yeah, sad times for Internet Connections lagging me back. So hungry.
yeah, yeah. I think Ali Star could be a solid choice for you there.
yeah,
So
I think Ali Star is probably gonna do quite well. I mean, he was battling with the likes of me and Josh in tier one last season.
yeah, I
'Cause
was surprised to see him in tier two. To be honest, I was expecting him to be in tier one, unless he couldn't make the date or something, or the day it was going to be held on. I don't
it,
know, but
it was to do with the
Assists.
assists and everything that's going on with that, turning off traction control
right, okay,
and gears and things like that.
right, okay,
Which
So he's been
hopefully one day he'll be able to turn traction off. Is it? It's all the way off in tier one, isn't it? In top tier.
yeah, it's completely off
So I
the top
presume
tier.
he's at medium, but um, yeah, I think Ali's a good choice, but I don't think it's going to be a runaway. Obviously, I think like we said for the constructors, the Mercedes boys, Michael and Raleigh are good. Stenner obviously might have a chance, and I think I'm trying to look through now.
I'll tell you what. Someone I did forget to back when you were saying about Ali Star. I got to back him from before. I reckon Tez will have a
I
good
was just about
chance.
to
He
say
has
that
some
as
good
well.
performances in tier one. How can you forget Tez? To be honest, I forgot he's in tier two.
We've got to
That's
say
probably
Tez
the
was the
main
worst. He'll
reason.
kick us out of TTM. Tez is definitely going to win.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. The podcast just suddenly ends and
yeah,
Yeah,
never. We never come back online. Oh,
yeah,
what's happened?
Tez has
The
listened to this
TTM
and
mafia.
we found out we're not backing him, so he's binned us off. But no, if
Yeah, TTM mafia.
Tez obviously has moments where he's really quick, I think if he just make that consistently, um, he'll be good. And
But we
hope
don't want it too consistent. We don't want it too consistent. We
No.
want to see a few of the good old Tez rages. It
And
wouldn't be a TTM race with Tez if we don't see a TTM. We don't see a Tez rage.
another driver who I think has potential is Curry. I know quite a few, or one of his major strengths from season one was defending.
Oh, it's
Um,
impossible to get past him.
yeah, I know.
You're screwed if you get caught up behind him. Even if he's on a slower tyre, you could come out on softs and he's on like old hards and about to pit or something. But it's just there's no way to get past him. He makes driving that F1 car twice as wide as it should be.
Yeah,
But it's such clean defending as well. There's no sort of late moves or dive or sort of defending a line that he's lost. He holds that car in a position so well. If he can get out in front, I reckon he'll be able to save a lot of places that way and score some big points.
yeah, or even like with the full qualifying business, if he goes on a different strategy, maybe if he goes on a one stop, whereas other people go on a two stop, and the people who are two stop and have to overtake him, and he can keep them behind. I know we saw in 2018 Raikkonen did a similar thing, I think, where he did one less stop, but because Hamilton couldn't overtake him, he went on to win the race. So I think he's a good shout for someone who could do really well. I know we've all had experience stuck behind him. So yeah, I think again with all the tiers, there's plenty of people who could do well. But now moving on to top tier, who's going to win the championship? Don't all say me at once,
No.
It's got to be TTM Josh, right?
Oh,
I was going to say, well, yeah.
Are you expecting me
I
to say
think I'll
TTM
have to go
Brenda?
for-
Because I definitely am saying that it's going to be TTM Brenda. I was gonna back myself, but I was like, no, I can't do that. Although it would be nice to
Yeah,
win
so
3 championships back to back. Don't mind me. I don't think.
I mean, there's so many
Yeah,
just
it could literally
amazing
be anyone.
drivers that is in this tier. Obviously, one mistake that sort of DNFs a driver could be the difference in this tier between sort of any position. But I don't know how you can choose just one.
Yeah, I'm looking at this because we've a quarter of the grid are champions of TTM,
Yeah,
and quite
yeah.
honestly,
Obviously,
I could see it easily being 6 people by the end of the season. They're champions.
yeah. So I want to back you two for Ferrari. I want to say that you would do a solid job. But if I had to take you two out of the equation and look at it from like a neutral point of view, I'd probably have to put. If I was to bet on it, it'd probably be between Jerry, DZ, and maybe DW would be the 3 that I'd peg for having, because they might not necessarily be the fastest at every track, but they all always seem to put in a consistent result.
So Brenda, should we kick Billy off for not saying us two?
I did say obviously I'm picking you two, but if I have to look at it from a neutral point of view, and then can't pick you two, that's who I'd go for.
So
Obviously, with
with
you
us-
two,
with us
there'd be
be-
when you two are involved. Obviously, they're just fighting for third place. They're fighting for the Max Verstappen place. But then
So-
again, to be honest, I haven't actually seen you two race sort of the likes of DW. I don't think I've even seen you race Jerry or DZ. I've seen you all in the esports team together.
Yeah, and that's a bit
Yeah,
but
different,
I've
isn't it? When
never
we're all
seen
working
you.
as a team, not fighting each other.
And obviously there's team orders and letting past on different strategies. I've never actually seen you all race, so to be honest, I'm just really looking forward to Wednesday. I just want to see how all this plays out. There's going to be some amazing racing, and if it's as clean as it was last season, I reckon it'll be. Yeah, I don't reckon you'll be able to beat it. It's just going to be bring on it Wednesday every week with sort of the caliber of drivers.
Yeah, I think it is too difficult to pick just one.
Yeah, but for constructors, I'm going for Ferrari. Ferrari will definitely win constructors overall. but I don't want to pick
I agree.
one out of you two of which one will finish on top.
It's got to be Josh, obviously. It's got to be Josh.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, but you've got strengths at different tracks. Josh has got that
Uh,
just raw pace at different tracks. But when it comes to somewhere like Monaco or Singapore, I'm not sure.
it's obviously going to be Brenda who comes out on top. Let's
And,
not,
and
let's not
providing you
cross
don't
ourselves.
DNF at Baku again.
Yeah.
That's alright, because
Need to
I'll
work on.
probably DNF at Monaco. Pain.
That's not good for Ferrari though overall.
No, well, we're not. We're going to try not to, but you know, Monaco's
Yeah.
just stupid.
Oh
So it's back.
yeah. See,
Baku's a lovely
Baku's my
track.
favourite street circuit. Baku is my favourite street circuit. Vietnam, sort of Singapore, Monaco. They could all leave the calendar, and I wouldn't care. But Baku, that's a good circuit. I've really hurt Brenda there.
Yeah.
I've really hurt him.
You might as well just stab me then.
But it's not like I'm saying Charles Leclerc shit. I mean, he might be, but
I mean,
I'm not saying it.
Probably will now. Rub salt in the wound.
Yeah. No, they're not my favourite circuits. Then put it that way. I'll be less harsh. Mainly because I don't have the skill to drive them properly. I need a nice big runoff area for when I mess up a corner and go off.
Yeah. But going back to the prediction, I think, like you say, that it's so difficult to put one person in that top position. I think we're gonna have a different drivers each week coming out on top. I can't say one. Obviously, I want to back my teammate, and say that he'll win the third championship. But
Mate, you've got to be backing yourself.
no, I mean,
I mean,
I
obviously,
would-
I'm going to win.
yeah, exactly. So it's just that self belief, right?
Yeah. Half of
Um,
my pace is just pure confidence.
Can I buy some of that then? Because clearly, I didn't think I was, but if that's where half your pace comes from, I must be lacking a lot because I'm definitely more than half the pace off.
That's alright. I'll do a TED talk. I have to be confident on the
Okay.
racetrack.
Is that just going to be a one-off podcast by yourself where we just
Yeah.
listen to you explain it? Okay.
And I'm just chatting.
Sounds
I'm just
good.
like, yeah, you know, you gotta just believe in yourself. Someone tries to overtake, just be like, no, I'm gonna brake 10 meters later.
Don't grudge on it. Don't just swerve last second.
No, unless it's Brenda, and then you know he kind of deserves it.
Who cares?
But
Yeah.
not when we're teammates. Not when we're teammates.
Not one with teammates.
That's the one thing I'm really excited for this season. Obviously, last season you were just bitter rivals that were desperate to beat each other for that sort of drivers constructors. Whereas this season there'll be a few team orders in it. So if you're both going for those top positions and it's close at the top, I'm interested to see how this will play out.
Wait till he's behind me and he's quicker, and he asks me to get by, and I'm like, no,
And then you just become the boss.
F off.
Final race of the season.
If you want to get past me,
Just
overtake
a
me,
few
mate.
points in it. Final race of the season. You're all clear of everyone else in the table by at least 25 points, so it doesn't matter, and they can't win. One of you's 2 or 3 points behind the other one, and it matters that first or second position. Then it'll get interesting.
Whoever's leading is going to bin off the other one.
Yeah, might be the first time that an interesting race happens at Abu Dhabi.
We can have
In fact, no. Abu Dhabi won't be the last.
Brazil.
Yeah, Abu Dhabi won't be the last on this calendar, will it? So Brazil. Ooh,
we can have
that would make an interesting final
Well,
race.
to be fair, Brenda
gonna
is 2-1 up at Brazil, I think. No, 2-0 up even.
Oh, okay. You're gonna recreate the good old the Hamilton 2008 championship win. One of you's crossing the line and celebrating, going, "I've done it! I've done it! I've done it!" Then one of you overtake on the final corner to nick it off and by a point.
probably that'll be Josh overtaking on the final corner. I'll be like, yeah, I've finally beaten him, and then it'll be like, oh no, never mind.
But yeah, any I think that's pretty much all all the stuff we've got to cover about season 2. Any final thoughts?
No, not from me. Other than the next time we have this podcast, we'll have already had round 1 and maybe round 2 for the tiers, and so we can sort of have a look at seeing if some of these predictions were right early on, seeing who, if any of these drivers we reckon will take it, have taken an early lead or something.
Yeah, definitely. It'll be interesting to see. Brenda, any last words to say?
No, nothing from me. I think we've pretty much covered everything.
Well, that has been TTM Talks. I don't know what episode we're on now. I think 6, I want to say.
Is it? Oh,
Yeah.
I thought
6 or 7, I think.
6 or 7,
it is,
yeah. But
I
yeah,
suppose it would be.
hope you enjoyed as always. If you're still hanging around till the end and you're in the Discord, let us know if there's any topics you want us to cover, or if you want to be a guest on here. You know, we're always wanting guests. I know there are a few that I need to ask to be on, but my brain just hasn't organised it yet. Yeah, hope you're all staying safe. Hope you're all excited for season 2, and we will catch you on Wednesday. Goodbye.